Imagine tossing aside a letter because it looks like junk mail, only to find out later it cost you thousands of dollars. That's what happened to Tom Rivera, a 67-year-old retiree from a small Ohio town. But he found a way to get most of his Social Security money back. Stick with me to hear his story and learn how you can avoid missing out on what's yours. Tom Rivera was a quiet man who loved his simple life in Dayton, Ohio. At 67, he had silver hair, gentle brown eyes, and hands rough from years working in a factory. He lived in a cozy house with a little garden out back, where he grew tomatoes and sat with his morning coffee. His wife, Maria, passed away a few years ago, and now it was just him and his dog, Rusty. Tom relied on his Social Security check, the monthly money he earned from his long years of work, to pay for food, medicine, and keeping the house warm. Tom wasn't one for paperwork. He'd always let Maria handle the bills, and after she was gone, he let letters pile up on his kitchen table. "I'll get to it later," he'd say, patting Rusty's head. One day, he noticed the stack was growing, with envelopes from the Social Security Administration, SSA. He figured they were just updates, like a friendly note, and tossed most of them into a drawer without opening them. But those letters held something important: money he didn't know he was missing. Social Security is like a steady friend that sends you money after you retire, based on the work you did. Sometimes they send letters to tell you about extra benefits or changes, like a map to a hidden treasure. Tom didn't realize those ignored letters were trying to tell him about $21,000 in back payments he could claim because of a mistake in his records. Could he still fix this and get the help he needed? This wasn't just about money for Tom. Without it, he worried he couldn't afford his heart medicine or fix the leaky roof that dripped on his favorite chair. Rusty's dog food was running low, and Tom felt a pang of guilt seeing his old friend's sad eyes. He sat by the garden one evening, the tomatoes looking small, wondering if he'd missed his chance. But deep down, he wasn't ready to give up. Was there still a way to get that money? Have you ever ignored a letter or bill that turned out to be important? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear how it went. Tom's quiet life started to feel heavy. One morning, he opened a letter from the SSA that he couldn't ignore. It said his benefits were lower than they should be. Confused, he dug through the drawer and found old notices he'd skipped. They talked about a mistake. The SSA hadn't counted all his factory years, which meant he was owed $21,000 in back payments. His heart sank. If he'd read those letters, he could have had that money months ago to fix the roof or buy a new heater. He tried to call the SSA, but the phone was tricky. He waited on hold for what felt like forever, his hands shaking as he held the receiver. When someone finally answered, they said, "You need to file a claim for the back pay, but there's a deadline." Tom didn't understand deadlines or forms. He scribbled notes on a napkin, but the words blurred. The roof leaked worse that night, and Tom slept on the couch with a bucket catching drops, feeling like he'd let himself down. The missing money wasn't just numbers, it was peace of mind. Tom remembered Maria's laugh as they planned their retirement, dreaming of a little trip or a new porch swing. Now, he couldn't even keep the house warm. His neighbor, Betty, a 70-year-old widow, brought him soup, but he felt ashamed. "I should have known better," he told her, his voice low. He worried about Rusty, who shivered on cold nights, and about the doctor's bills piling up. Tom felt like a boat drifting without a paddle, lost in a sea of papers. Tom tried to figure it out himself. He went to the library, where a young worker helped him use a computer to visit SSA.gov. The website showed he could request back pay, but he needed proof of his work history. Old pay stubs he couldn't find. He searched boxes in the attic, his back aching as he climbed the ladder. Dust covered his hands, and he found Maria's old scarf, which made him cry. Time was running out, and the SSA deadline was just 60 days away. Betty came over again, seeing Tom's struggle. "Let me help," she said, her kind eyes steady. She'd dealt with Social Security before and knew a local group that helps seniors. They went together, and a volunteer explained that Tom could still claim most of the back pay if he acted fast. "It's like finding a lost key to a locked door," the volunteer said. Tom felt a spark of hope, but there was a catch. He needed more records, and the attic search hadn't worked. The volunteer said the SSA might accept a letter from Tom's old boss, but the factory had closed years ago. Would he find someone who remembered him in time to meet the deadline? Or would he lose the $21,000 forever? Have you ever worried about money after retiring? Drop a comment below and tell me what kept you going through tough times. Tom didn't give up. With Betty's help, he called old coworkers, his voice shaky as he asked for favors. One friend, Joe, still had records from the factory and sent a letter proving Tom's work years. Betty typed it up neatly, and they mailed it to the SSA with Tom's claim. He waited, his hands fidgeting as days passed. The roof leaked again, and he used an extra blanket for Rusty, hoping the money would come. One afternoon, a thick envelope arrived. Tom's heart raced as he opened it. "Approved," it said. The SSA had granted him $18,000 in back payments, minus a small delay penalty, plus his regular checks would increase. Tom sat at his kitchen table, tears in his eyes, patting Rusty's head. Betty smiled, saying, "You did it, Tom." The money wasn't the full $21,000, but it was enough to fix the roof and buy medicine. The $18,000 paid for a new roof that didn't drip, and Tom felt the house become a home again. He got his heart medicine and a big bag of dog food for Rusty, who wagged his tail like a puppy. Tom even planted new tomatoes, their green leaves a sign of new life. He didn't take fancy trips, but he could sit in his warm living room, listening to the radio Maria loved, feeling her presence. The SSA set up direct deposit for his checks, so he wouldn't miss payments again. Tom felt like he'd climbed out of a dark hole with Social Security as his steady hand. He missed the full amount, but he learned a lesson that changed his days. Tom's story has 2 lessons for you. First, open every letter from Social Security. It's like checking a gift box to see what's inside. Visit ssa.gov or call 1-800-772-1213 to stay updated. Second, keep your work records safe, like storing treasures in a locked chest. It can help you get what you deserve if there's a mix-up. Tom's house felt bright again. He sat on his new porch swing one evening, the tomatoes growing tall, and watched Rusty chase a butterfly. The regret of ignoring the mail lingered, but the recovery filled him with peace. He knew he'd be okay, thanks to a second chance from Social Security. Are you keeping your papers organized for the future? Share your tips in the comment side. Love to learn from you. If Tom's story warmed your heart or taught you something new, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this. Ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. And if you've had a money scare, tell us about it in the comments. We're all here to help each other.